"You came to fire me?" the night cleaner asked. Then the CEO saw what she taught his father. Ruth Carter heard the termination folder strike the table before she saw the man holding it. "Step away from my father." Nathan Cole stood inside the doorway of the private rehabilitation room. His hand remained on the blue folder. His company name appeared on the wall behind him. His anger did not need an introduction. Ruth stayed beside the old man. Walter Cole held a black marker between stiff fingers. A white board rested across his knees. 6 handmade word cards lay beside it. "You came to fire me." Nathan looked at her cleaning cart. Then he looked at the cards. "You were ordered to stop doing this." Ruth knew what the folder contained. She also knew that medical transport would arrive at 10 the next morning. Walter would be taken to a locked memory care wing before she returned for another shift. Walter touched the marker to the board. His hand shook. Nathan moved forward to help. Ruth lifted one finger. "Wait." Walter pulled the marker across the board. The first shape was crooked. The second took nearly 20 seconds. The third ended in a dark streak. "Son." Nathan stopped. Walter had not copied the word. Ruth had not said it. He looked directly at Nathan and tapped the board once. Nathan lowered the termination folder. "Dad, Dottie." Walter tried to answer. Only air came out. Nathan reached for the board. Walter pulled it against his chest. Ruth spoke before Nathan could turn that pain back into anger. "He knows who you are. He has been trying to tell you for 6 nights. Nathan stared at the word again. Then Walter pointed toward a blue medical folder near his bed. He held up 4 fingers. Nathan did not notice. Ruth did. Lena Price arrived less than a minute later. She ran the rehabilitation center for the Coalhaven Company. She had also given Ruth the order that Ruth had ignored. Lena collected the cards from the table. "These are not approved clinical materials." Walter reached for them. Ruth put one card back within his reach. It showed the word "yes" in thick black letters. Walter pressed his finger against it. Nathan looked from the card to Ruth. "How long has this been happening?" 6 nights. "You had no right." "He asked me." "My father cannot ask for anything." Walter struck the board with the marker. The sound silenced the room. Ruth turned toward Nathan. "That is what everyone keeps deciding for him." Lena opened the termination folder. Inside were 2 incident reports. Ruth had been warned after a nurse found the letter cards 3 nights earlier. The report said Ruth had acted beyond her job. It said she could create false responses by repeating the same questions. It said Walter became agitated after the sessions. Ruth did not deny the lessons. She had cleaned the room assigned to Walter for almost 5 months. After his stroke, he could understand ordinary speech. He could move his right hand, but spoken words rarely came. When people asked him questions, they gave him 3 seconds to answer. Then they answered for him. Ruth had started with 2 cards. Yes. No. Walter chose correctly when she asked whether the light hurt his eyes. He chose again when she asked whether he wanted the nurse. By the 3rd night he could point to letters. By the 6th he could write short words. Lena faced Nathan. The transfer remains scheduled for 10. The receiving facility has the supervision level in his plan. Locked memory care. Ruth said the words plainly. Nathan tightened his jaw. He wandered twice last week. He pulled out an alarm lid. He needs protection. He was trying to reach the bathroom. Nobody understood him. You cannot know that. He told me. Lena held up the incident reports. With cards, you made yourself. Ruth saw the doubt in his expression. The word son had reached him. It had not convinced him. Give him 10 minutes. Lena shook her head. Ruth kept her eyes on Nathan. Use questions I could not have practiced. If he does not understand them, then fire me now. I will leave without another word. But if he does understand, then delay the transfer until someone tests him in a way he can answer. Nathan looked at his father. Walter still held the board against his chest. The word remained visible. 10 minutes. Lena began to object. Nathan stopped her. The transfer stays scheduled. This changes nothing unless the answers are real. Ruth knelt beside Walter. I need to show them the notebook. Walter looked toward a black notebook beneath the cleaning cloths on her cart. His fingers moved toward the yes card. Then they stopped. He pointed at Ruth. He pointed at the termination folder. Then he pressed no go. He understood that helping himself might cost Ruth her job. Ruth moved the yes card closer. The choice is yours, not mine. Take your time. Walter watched her for several long seconds. Then he covered the word no and pressed yes. Ruth placed the notebook on the table. Now they had 10 hours to make that answer matter. Nathan chose the first question. What did you eat for breakfast? Ruth shook her head. He needs choices or the letter board. Nathan pushed the alphabet board toward Walter. Breakfast. What did you eat? Walter looked down. His finger hovered over the letters. Nathan waited 4 seconds. Was it eggs? His finger moved toward the letter O. Oatmeal. Nathan said the word before Walter could finish. His hand dropped. That was oatmeal, Nathan said. He knew what I meant. Ruth watched him withdraw. You answered it. Then ask him something else. Lena removed a room key from her pocket and placed it beside a paper cup. Which object opens a door? Walter stared at both objects. He touched the cup. Nathan exhaled. Ruth knew he had chosen the wrong object. She also knew why. The cup sat on Walter's stronger side. The key was near the hand he could not easily reach, with his gaze lowered. She moved the objects to the center. Lena stopped her. You cannot correct the test while it is happening. Walter pushed both objects away. His breathing quickened. The marker rolled to the floor. Nathan picked it up and offered it to him. Dad, we are trying to help you. Walter turned toward the wall. The 10-minute demonstration ended after less than 4 minutes. Lena gathered the cards. This is exactly why staff were told to stop. Repeated failure increases his distress. Nathan placed the marker beside the word, son. Maybe he practiced that one word. Ruth wanted to argue. Instead, she opened the black notebook. Every page carried a date. The first page showed simple choices. Light on. Light off. Water dirty. Nurse ... Pain. The later pages recorded letters and response times. Walter had made mistakes. Ruth had written those down too. Nathan saw one answer circled 3 times. Why is this one marked? Because I asked the same question on 3 different nights. I changed the order of the choices each time. The question asked which city Walter had grown up near. On the first night he chose Dayton. On the third he pointed to the letters one at a time. On the 6th he wrote the word himself. Dayton. Nathan glanced at his father. That could be in a company biography. It is. That is why it was not enough. Ruth turned the page. The next question concerned the name Walter had given his first dog. The notebook showed 3 attempts. 2 were incomplete. The third spelled Molly. Nathan looked different. Was that the name? Yes. Did you tell her? No. Lena examined the page. These notes were made by the person giving the prompts. They are not independent evidence. She was right. Ruth closed the notebook. Then let someone independent ask him. There is no one available before transport. Call someone. Lena spoke in a controlled voice. You are asking us to replace a clinical care plan with the observations of an employee who violated a direct instruction. No. I am asking you to admit that the plan might be based on answers he was never able to give. Nathan picked up the termination folder again. How did you know to make these cards? Ruth did not answer immediately. That question would cost her the last piece of protection she had. She looked at Walter. He pressed yes again. So Ruth told the truth. Ruth had cared for her husband after a stroke 11 years earlier. For 2 weeks he could not speak. Nurses asked him whether he was in pain. When he failed to answer, they recorded that he was confused. A speech therapist noticed that his eyes followed every conversation. She made a simple board and taught Ruth to wait. The first thing her husband spelled was not her name. It was cold. He had spent 2 days under a vent because nobody understood that one word. Ruth learned how much harm could hide inside a rushed silence. Her husband later recovered enough speech to complain about her cooking. He lived another 7 years. Ruth smiled once when she said that. Then the smile left. I am not a therapist. I never told Walter that I was. I only showed him the same starting method that someone once showed me. Lena softened for the first time. Your reason does not make the risk disappear. I know. You continued after I warned you. Yes? Why? Because the morning after that warning I heard 2 staff members discuss him while he was sitting between them. They spoke as if he had already left the room. He understood every word. Nathan looked at his father. Ruth continued. I should have asked for another review. I should not have hidden the lessons. But I could not watch everyone call him absent when he was still here. Nathan turned a page in the notebook. Ruth had recorded his frustration as carefully as his progress. One entry said that he refused all questions after a family visit. Another said that the word son caused visible distress. What happened during that visit? Ruth looked at Walter. He should answer that. Walter had turned back from the wall. He tapped 4 fingers against the arm of his chair. 4. Ruth said it softly. He pointed to the blue medical folder. Lena reached for it. Walter covered it with his hand. Nathan held out his palm. May I? Walter watched him. Nathan almost repeated the request. Ruth raised 1 finger. Wait. After 12 seconds, Walter moved his hand. Nathan opened the folder. The first page summarized a cognitive screening completed 3 weeks earlier. The score was low. The recommendation called for greater supervision and a secure environment. Nathan looked at Ruth. This is what the transfer is based on. Walter struck the folder with 4 fingers. Page 4. Ruth did not touch it. Nathan turned the pages himself. The 4th page contained a qualification beneath the test results. Nathan read it once. Then he sat down. The screening could not establish Walter's cognitive status because spoken and written language had been severely affected by the stroke. The evaluator recommended a second assessment using supported communication and extended response time. No diagnosis of dementia appeared anywhere on the page. Nathan looked at Lena. Why have I never seen this? It has been in the file since the evaluation. You told me he needed memory care. I told you he needed greater supervision. His insurer approved the available secure placement. We requested another assessment. The earliest appointment was 3 weeks away. And you scheduled the transfer anyway. You approved it. Lena did not sound defensive. That made the truth harder. Nathan found his signature on the first page. He had signed beneath the summary. The fourth page carried the recommendation he had never read. He looked at his father. I thought the doctors had decided. Walter reached for the board. His marker scraped across it, but the letters tangled. His frustration rose. He struck out the attempt and pushed the board away. Nathan reached toward him. Walter pulled back. Ruth saw him tense. Not with anger this time. With recognition. He had mistaken a recommendation for a verdict, because a verdict was easier to carry. Nathan called the receiving facility. He did not cancel the transfer. He asked whether transport could be delayed until noon. The answer was no. The bed would be released if Walter did not arrive at 10. Nathan ended the call. I need something stronger than a notebook before I give up a placement he may need. Ruth nodded. Then stop asking him questions that you answer yourself. Nathan placed 3 cards before Walter. Rehabilitation. Memory care. Home. Which one do you want? Walter touched the rehabilitation card. Nathan leaned closer. You want to stay here? His finger moved toward number wow. Nathan missed it. We cannot keep you here without an approved plan. Home is not safe yet. The memory center has nurses all night and a protected floor. Walter pushed the cards away. Nathan looked at Ruth. He picked rehabilitation. Then you changed the meaning of his answer. I explained the options. You explained why his choice was wrong before he finished making it. Nathan stood. Do not tell me how to speak to my father. Walter marker hit the board. Both of them turned. Walter pointed to the alphabet card. Ruth moved it within reach. He selected one letter, then another. His hand slowed after every movement. Nathan began to guess. Ruth stopped him. Wait. The sentence took nearly 3 minutes. You answer for me. Nathan read it without moving. Walter tapped the final word. Me. You may. Nathan sat down again. I was trying to help. Walter pointed to no boisiu. The answer landed harder than anger. Nathan started to apologize. Walter raised his hand and pointed to stop. Nathan looked at Ruth for an explanation. Ruth gave him none. Walter had spent months waiting while other people decided what his gestures meant. Ruth would not take this one away from him. Nathan had to accept that an apology was another answer his father might not be ready to give. Nathan placed his hands on his knees and waited. Walter slowly moved from stop to the word listen. It was not forgiveness. It was an instruction. For 5 months, Nathan had visited between meetings. He brought reports. He spoke with physicians. He asked questions while checking the time. When Walter struggled, he converted every pause into agreement. Nathan believed he was sparing his father humiliation. He had been erasing him. Nathan looked at the 3 cards. Rehabilitation. Memory care. 1, 2. He placed them before Walter again. This time he said nothing. Walter touched rehabilitation. Then he pointed at the word home. He held up 2 fingers. Ruth understood the structure, but not the answer. He wants rehabilitation first. Then home. Lena stepped closer. We cannot treat that as informed consent without confirming that he understands the risks. Ruth nodded. She is right. Nathan looked surprised. Ruth continued. Choosing a card is not enough. He needs someone qualified to test what he understands. And I cannot be the person who decides that he passed. That admission changed the room. Ruth was not asking Nathan to trust her conclusion. She was asking him to provide the process his father had been denied. Nathan called Dr. Maya Shah. She had evaluated Coalhaven residents before, but did not work for the company. Her morning schedule was full. Nathan asked for 20 minutes before 10. She refused. He explained the report. He explained the transfer. He explained the word on the board. Dr. Shah agreed to arrive at 9:15. She made no promise about the results. Lena closed the medical folder. Even if she evaluates him, Ruth cannot participate. Her presence could cue his answers. Walter grabbed the yes card. He pointed at Ruth. Then he pointed at himself. Ruth understood. He is asking for me. Lena shook her head. He is asking for the person who taught him the responses. Nathan did not defend Ruth. Not yet. He looked at the notebook and then at the termination notice. What happens to her now? Lena answered. The policy violation is documented. Her employment ends tonight. Walter struck no so hard that the card bent. Ruth gently flattened it. This choice is not yours. Walter looked at her with anger. Ruth kept her voice steady. Your choice is what happens to you. That is the one we have to protect. For the first time that night, Walter looked afraid. The person who had waited for his answers would be gone before the most important question arrived. Lena asked Ruth to surrender her employee badge. Ruth removed it slowly. 11 years earlier, she had left a classroom aide position to care for her husband. After he died, she had taken evening cleaning work because the hours allowed her to help her older sister during the day. The badge did not represent a dream. It represented rent, groceries, and the quiet pride of paying for both herself. Nathan held the black notebook. If these records help my father, then I will make sure you are compensated. Ruth looked at him. You still think money can turn a choice into yours? Nathan lowered the notebook. Ruth could have taken it. The pages proved she had acted from care. They might help her challenge the firing. Without them, she would have only her word. She placed the notebook on his lap. These are his answers. They belong with him. Lena escorted Ruth from the room. At the doorway, Walter made a strange sound. Ruth turned. He pointed to the word son. Then he pointed at Nathan. His hand moved to the word wait. Nathan saw it this time. I will wait. Ruth left her badge with Lena and went downstairs. She did not go home. A public sitting area remained open beside the main entrance. She sat there with her empty lunch bag and watched the hours change on the wall clock. Upstairs, Nathan read the notebook from the beginning. Ruth had not recorded only correct answers. She marked uncertainty, fatigue, pain, and frustration. She noted when his responses changed after medication. She had written one instruction more than any other. Do not guess for him. At 8:45, Lena brought Walter to the assessment room. Nathan placed the alphabet board in front of him. Walter pushed it away. Nathan waited. Walter opened the notebook to its final page. He wrote one letter. His hand stopped. He tried again. Ruth.T. Lena folded her arms. This is exactly the dependency I warned about. Nathan looked at his father. Do you want Ruth here? Walter reached for yes. Nathan waited after the choice. Walter pressed it again. Dr. Shah arrived at 9:12. Nathan explained the conflict. Lena explained the policy violation. Neither mentioned the word son until Dr. Shaw asked what Walter had produced without prompting. She reviewed the clinical report. Then she read selected pages from the notebook. She turned the notebook toward Ruth. Did you ever guide his hand to a letter? On the first night. Then I realized I could be choosing for him. I stopped. Did you repeat questions after an incorrect answer? Sometimes. Did you praise correct answers? Yes. Dr. Shaw closed the notebook. Then these pages show a reason to test him. They do not prove the result. Ruth nodded. Nathan asked whether those mistakes made the notebook useless. No, thought I. They make it honest. But nothing in this room will count unless Walter answers material. He has never practiced. That condition removed the final advantage Ruth had. Her notes had opened the door. They could not carry Walter through it. A communication partner may support access to the board. The partner may not select answers, interpret unclear answers, or change my prompts. Lena asked whether an untrained employee could serve in that role. Dr. Shaw answered, "She is no longer here as an employee. She's the person Walter selected. I will remove her if she influences one response." Nathan called the front desk. Ruth returned without her badge. Walter relaxed when he saw her. Ruth sat beside him. She did not touch the board. Dr. Shaw explained the rules. Then she looked at Ruth. "Can you follow them?" "Yes, even if silence costs him the result." Ruth looked at Walter. "That answer has to be his." Outside the room, the transport vehicle entered the parking area. Dr. Shaw began with questions Ruth had never used. She placed a red card and a blue card before Walter. She asked him to touch blue, then red, then blue again. Walter completed the sequence. She placed a key under the red card. She asked him to uncover the key without moving the blue card. His hand went toward blue. Ruth felt every person in the room lean with it. She kept her hands in her lap. Walter stopped. He looked at Dr. Shaw. Then he moved the red card and uncovered the key. Dr. Shaw changed the order and repeated the task. Walter completed it again. Next, she showed him two care descriptions. One described a locked memory wing with constant supervision. The other described neurological rehabilitation with therapy and a higher risk of falls. She read both descriptions aloud. She asked Walter to identify which option had locked doors. He selected memory care. She asked which option included intensive speech therapy. He selected rehabilitation. She asked what could happen if he chose the less restrictive option. Walter reached for the alphabet board. His first letters formed F-A. Nathan whispered, "Faldari, Edri, Karl Schiedens Schurain." His hand stopped. Ruth looked at Nathan. Nathan closed his eyes for one moment. "I did it again." He moved his chair backward. Walter returned to the board. "Fall. Not." Then he selected HURT. Dr. Shaw asked whether someone had taught him that answer. Walter pressed no. She asked him to explain why he still preferred rehabilitation. The room became quiet. Transport staff called Lena from the corridor. The bed at the receiving facility would be released if Walter did not leave within 10 minutes. Lena asked Dr. Shaw whether she had enough information. "Not yet." Walter stared at the board. His breathing became shallow. Ruth knew the signs of exhaustion. She also knew that touching him now could be treated as a cue. Nathan moved forward. Then he stopped himself. He looked at his father. "Take your time." Walter looked up. Nathan said nothing else. Walter selected the first letter. Ruth did not read it aloud. He selected another, then other. Work. He paused. Hard. Tine. He rested his hand. Dr. Shah read the answer back exactly as he had given it. Work hard. Share. Mashain. Walter pressed yes. He understood that rehabilitation would be difficult. He understood that he could fall. He wanted the chance to work toward returning home. Dr. Shah had one final question. If rehabilitation becomes unsafe, then who should help you reconsider? Walter looked first at Ruth, then at Nathan. Nathan did not reach for a card. Walter pointed to the word son. Then he pointed to the word listen. Nathan covered his mouth with one hand. I will. Walter kept his finger on listen. Nathan corrected himself. I am listening. Dr. Shah closed her assessment form. Walter had shown consistent comprehension of the immediate care choices. He had communicated the risks. He had expressed a stable preference. She could not determine every area of his cognition in one short session. She could determine that the existing test had not justified ignoring his decision. She recommended a complete adapted evaluation and continued neurological rehabilitation. Lena called the transport team. The transfer is cancelled. Walter leaned back and closed his eyes. Ruth finally placed her hand beside his. He turned his palm and covered her fingers. Nathan looked at the termination notice on the table. I can reverse this. Ruth shook her head. Not because your father passed a test. What I did was outside my job. Fix the gap that made breaking a rule feel like his only chance. Lena did not argue. Coalhaven reviewed the firing over the next 2 weeks. Ruth did not become a therapist. She did not receive a grand title or a fortune. The company restored her cleaning position after replacing termination with a formal warning. It also paid for her to enter a supervised communications support course, designed with Dr. Shah. Ruth accepted on one condition. The course could not exist only for the woman whose actions had embarrassed the chief executive. Nursing assistants, cleaners, and other support workers needed a clear way to report communication that formal testing had missed. Nathan agreed. Then Ruth made him put the promise in the new written policy. The new policy did not allow cleaners to provide therapy. It required staff to report signs of overlooked communication, and gave patients a path to request trained support. Walter moved to a neurological rehabilitation program by his own choice. Nathan visited without bringing reports. The first visits were uncomfortable. He still guessed. He still rushed. Each time Walter tapped the word wait. Nathan learned. Several weeks later, Ruth finished her evening shift and found them practicing with the same whiteboard. Nathan asked Walter what he wanted Ruth to see. Walter began to write. Nathan waited. The first word was Ruth. The second was teacher. Ruth smiled and touched the old cleaning badge clipped beside her new training card. Walter erased the board. Then he wrote one more word. Santerjere. Nathan did not finish the thought for him. He simply pulled his chair closer and listened. If this story stayed with you, share it with someone who understands why every person deserves time to answer. Follow Curves and Crowns Stories for more.